to another episode of Roll or Die. Today we have a treat for our listeners. We have for you the head coach of Iconic Jiu Jitsu on the New South Wales Central Coast, Grant Bradshaw, and his lovely wife, brown belt Rachael Bradshaw. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. That should be your new nickname, brown belt Rachael Bradshaw.
Not for long.
Not for long.
That's right. That's right. You're actually you're getting your black belt in December. Is that right, Rachael?
Testing for it. So it is a failable test under our association. So yeah, I've got to be ready for it.
That's going to be pretty rare though, right? Like, I don't know, by the time you get to your level, you should be used to doing your homework, I would imagine. Plus a quick story.
And I think we're better prepared now under our association than what we were when like Grant went over to the States to test for his black belt. So we know what to expect.
Yeah, awesome. What's the association?
So our head coach, Luke Beston, is married to Angela Gracie of, you might have heard of the Gracie family. You know,
a little popular family that hasn't done much for jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
So yeah, we're affiliated with Hoist, and as part of his association, certainly at the time when I tested for my black belt, anyone who wants to get a black belt under his association has to go and test in America. So from around the world, when I went, there were 31 people went. We wound up in Miami at the Valenti Brothers Academy. Yeah. And of the 31 people across the world who went, there were people from Israel, people from Portugal, people from the Middle East, all around Canada. I think 17 or 19 of the 31 actually passed. So yeah, when Rach talks about it being a failable test, there were 4 of us from our academy who went, and 3 of us passed the first time.
That is amazing. So you were saying just before we went live that you've been a black belt for 7 years and you are yet to receive your first degree. Is that right?
Yeah. So obviously, Hoist's biggest sort of mission, I guess, is to preserve the jiu-jitsu of his father, and along with that comes a lot of the traditions and so on and so forth. So one of the things that he integrated after Alio's passing was the black belts now a sort of a multi-tiered approach. And it was traditional in the past. I think a lot of people know that people would first get the white bar on their black belt to show that they were a fighter or a competitor or something like that. Then you get the red bar as a teacher, and then the red bar with the white stripes as a professor sort of thing. And then with how things sort of standardized a little bit, I guess, with IBJJF, not necessarily better, not necessarily worse, just different. You see a lot of people now, when they strap on that black belt for the first time, they get that red bar and the white stripes and all those kinds of things. Yeah. So with Hoist, you get your white bar to kick things off. And then when he decides the time's right, you actually get a navy blue bar rather than the red bar, which is in tribute. Again, I think some people are aware, towards the end of his life, Grandmaster Alio wore a navy blue belt. In protest at some of the things that had happened, and just to uphold his own tradition. So Hoist does that in turn to sort of pay tribute to his father. Yeah. So who knows? We haven't seen Hoist for a few years, what with the way of the world, but we're hoping he comes out soon and we'll see him and see what happens from there. Yeah. But it's the old phrase, isn't it? Ultimately the belt covers 2 inches of your ass and you've got to do the rest. So it doesn't matter how many pieces of electrical tape I've got on it.
Yeah. So that must be challenging though, to stay not motivated. I mean, like, I know about kind of like my progression is slow because my progression is slow, not because of a system. Like I seem to be a slow jiu-jitsu learner up till now. I'm getting better.
Yeah.
But, like for you, I'm sure that you're just busting, I'm sure that you're working hard and you don't have the affliction that I have, and yet you're not getting the stripes. Does that impact you psychologically, or is that just fine for you?
Look, you do have moments. You certainly have moments. I mean, I've got a lot of good friends who, it's funny, 3 or 4 of my friends actually got black belts within the same month as me. It's, as schools have standardized, it almost seems like people do gradings sort of in July and gradings in December. Yeah. And so I had 4 or 5 mates, who graded at the same time, and they're all second degree now, and they've got their nice little red bars and the 2 little white bits of electrical tape. And some of those guys, to be honest with you, some of those guys don't even train very much anymore. I'm on the mat 7 days a week, either at our academy or up training with Luke and that sort of thing. And you have moments, you do have moments, but then you just remember that the belt itself doesn't matter. And especially these days, so many people are doing so much no-gi. And you see on a competitive scene, you're seeing guys who are blue belts and purple belts and brown belts just running through world-class guys.
Absolutely.
I really value what the belt represents from a teaching and learning perspective. See, I'm a high school teacher as well.
Oh.
And as part of our association, part of the test is we've got to know Grandmaster Alio's full self-defense curriculum. And that's something that, again, in the 21st century, some people are a bit critical of. But the idea behind that is if you're a Hoist Gracie black belt, you can teach what his father taught him. It is the basic idea of that sort of thing. So with regards to the frustration, yeah, you do from time to time. But then there's also, I look at my coach Luke's been a black belt since I started in 2000. He got his black belt December 05. I started in January 06 with him. And I think he's got maybe 2 stripes on his belt, and he just keeps going. So as long as it's good enough for my boss, it's good enough for me.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Inspiring.
And Rachael, just changing tacks a bit here, how is it having your husband as your coach or training with your husband? How does that
I've
go?
become very good at compartmentalization over the years. I'm very good at that. And a lot of the students will often hear me I call Grant coach on the mats when we step onto the mats. So, hey, coach, I'll put my hand up and ask questions and things like that. I say I've got 3 coaches and 2 of them know that I exist. So I've got Luke Beston is our coach. Grant, I've learned so much from him over the years, and in the later part of my journey, probably most of what I learn is directly from him, which he's learned from Luke. So it all trickles down. And then I've just had
who's this third? I don't know who this third. But you guys are waiting. I want to know who the third is.
We're all hanging today.
It's forgettable.
Really
Must be pretty forgettable.
Is it one of the Gracies?
Henry Aikens. I've done a seminar with him once when he came out to Australia, and I like all the stuff that he puts out. I buy it and I love it and I watch it, and I always say that to my students. I'm like, oh, that's my backup husband if something ever happens there. He doesn't know I exist, but I've got my eye on him. So.
And then you got Pedro Sauer, Hannah. She loves all of these dudes. She's just hunting for the status. No bars on my belt. She just
Runs
on the ladder.
I understand, man. You seem to be sandbagging.
If you haven't checked his stuff out, he's so good. He's really good to learn from. So
awesome. Can you say the name again, because your audio actually cut out when you were saying his name?
Oh, Henry Aikens.
Oh, okay.
He's the Hickson Gracie black belt, and he's got a lot of stuff out on BJJ Fanatics, and
listen to you, Bernardo.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm like jiu-jitsu relationships. It's like something I like fantasize about being in one day. I don't think I've really been in a jiu-jitsu relationship. Like I've done a bit of BJJ dating around in my time, but I've always kind of imagined that it would be great. Kim's in a jiu-jitsu relationship, so you guys are. But like, do you think it's like helpful as far as like training and schedule? Do you think it creates a much more supportive environment for training jiu-jitsu, or do you think it can be counter? Like, what are your views?
For us, I think it's fantastic. So not only us, we've got 2 boys, 14 and 16, and they've both been training since they were 4.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is our family lifestyle. It's just what we do, and they go through phases as well where they'll train more, they'll train less. At the moment, our eldest is focused on other sports and focused on his HSC and all that kind of stuff. So his commitment's once a week, and that's kind of our deal. Mm-hmm. But our youngest is training 3 and 4 times a week, training wrestling classes with us as well, and teaches at our academy too. So it's certainly. I often tell the story to our students who are trying to get their partners to start, and I can remember the exact time where it switched from "Darling, do you mind if I go a 3rd time?" to "Would you get out of the house and go to jiu-jitsu?" So
that was when the kids were little and before I was training. So I would be like, just go. I could see the difference in him when he wasn't training to when he was. Yeah, but and then when my youngest turned 4, that's when I started properly. Like I dabbled in it a little bit before, but where I started properly, and I haven't not stopped since. So he's now 14, so it's been 10 years.
So what was
for
the
me
tipping
and
point?
him.
What was the tipping point for you? Like, what did Grant say or do that you were like, I'm going to go?
You know what? It was actually, he'd been asking me for years and begging, and he will often joke that the second he stopped asking me was when I started. But actually,
I'm not joking either. That is how it happened.
The tipping point for me was that I never really got the why behind why would I want to go and roll with sweaty men on a mat, you know? And the boys were 4 and 6. Both of them we just got the little one in. And it was about that time in King's Cross, there was a young, blonde-haired, blue-eyed young man who was king-hit and died. I can't remember what his name is now.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and my youngest, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, like I had this vision of the future of like, oh my goodness, this is why I've got my children doing this sport, martial art, whatever you want to call it, so that when they're 18 and 19 years old, you know, a king hit or a coward punch is something sometimes you obviously can't avoid because it comes out of nowhere. But I want to be able to give my boys the absolute best opportunities to be able to look after themselves. Awesome. And that's when it hit me. It was like, why aren't I doing this too? You know, like I've had situations in my past that I think, man, if I knew self-defense, some parts of my life would have been very different. So that's when I started, and I think the longest I've ever taken off the mats was about 3 weeks. So I've never stopped. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah.
And Rachel, can you share a little bit more about any other kind of benefits that it's brought you, like around confidence and things like that outside of
just so much. Like it impacts. You have to be in it to know it, and you guys will know this, but jiu-jitsu, once you're ingrained in it, it just impacts every other part of your life. Your social interactions, your work, you know, your dealing with your own parents and family and things like that, how you handle stress, you know, how you can sort of just sit back and go, man, I could just, you know, in your head, I could just choke you out right now, so I'm not going to actually let you get to me. You know, and in my relationship with Grant, I was going to say,
she just choked me out.
No, I don't get to very often. I did once. that was fun. But you know, being in a partnership or a marriage and doing this jiu-jitsu, I think you grow so much as a person, of your own understanding of yourself and things like that. And to be able to do that with your life partner and to keep growing, I can sort of see how some people, you know, we're in our 40s now, and you hear a lot of people starting to break up at this age, you know, because people grow apart, and we've managed to grow together with this journey and owning a business and, you know, doing all of this together. So
that's brilliant.
I just everything.
Fantastic. That's awesome.
My son and I, but this is the book by Hicks and Gracie called, I think it's called Breathe or Breath. Breathe.
It's so good.
Yeah, my son's read it 3 times now, and it's like one of the books. Like he kind of switched to basketball. He's got a jiu-jitsu background as well, but we still, like, we've got a room set up. We fight every day, and like this is one of the inspiring books that got him back into like training. We have literally we call them valet tudo fights because we don't have rules. You know, and it's a mixture of jiu-jitsu and striking. But anyway, that book, super inspiring. Have you guys read it? Do you know, does it seem like accurate to what you know about the Gracie family, etc.?
Yeah. And do you know what? One of the things I really liked about that book is it was kind of, to me anyway, it was kind of warts and all. Like a lot of the time there's this, and especially around Hicks, and there's this whole sort of mythology, you know, that 400-0 record and the untouchable God, and you hear about world champions say they go and train just after they won world championships, they can't do anything to him. But the painting that he portrayed was that he's human, just like everyone else. And especially, I know as a long-time mixed martial arts fan, and let's face it, that's a cool part of what we did. Is I got into jiu-jitsu originally because of UFC 1, and sort of down the line later to be sort of in America and sitting in Royce Gracie's lounge room was just the most surreal sort of thing to go, this dude's like the reason that without him, we don't know what jiu-jitsu is. Jiu-jitsu would still exist.
Yeah.
And it probably would have started proliferating by then, but without the Gracie family, it wouldn't have gone worldwide in the way it has.
May not have. It just actually may not have. Like, let's face it, there's plenty of great technologies out there that never see the light of day, not just in martial arts, I'm just talking about in life, because the marketing didn't work,
Absolutely. And people sort of throw shade on them for the marketing and this, that, and the other. And I can see where it's a bit over the top at times, but without it, nothing, as you said. So yeah, but what I liked about Hickson's book was it put a lot of that marketing aside. That's all been done. And especially sort of the way he was talking about, the passing of his son and that kind of thing, because that happened, that's where I was starting with his MMA thing. That happened right around the time the whole world just wanted to see Hickson against Sakuraba. And, we're sitting here right now talking about our families, and I can't imagine even getting out of bed if anything happened to my kids, let alone the keyboard warriors all around the world going, well, so what, your son died, why aren't you fighting this guy? Like, it doesn't matter. None of that matters. And then just talking about going up and building a treehouse and those kinds of things. So, yeah, I thought it was a really cool insight into Hickson, the person.
Agreed.
Which I like.
And Grant, can you tell us a little bit about how you discovered Jiu-Jitsu? You said it was UFC 1, but so where was that, there on the New South Wales Central Coast, or like
So I grew up in Sydney, and even at the time in Sydney, there was not a lot of jiu-jitsu, and I found, like a lot of people probably in Australia, the first few UFCs I saw were on little $10 bootleg videos tapes that went around, and they used to sell them in the kiosks at Westfields, and I'm seeing a few shakes and nods of the head there. So that was where I first saw them, and they were billed as this human cockfighting, and what really sort of dawned on me was that I fell for the marketing straight away. Seeing Hoist go in there and beat people without throwing a single strike, it was because he knew stuff that they didn't know, plain and simple. Now way more people know it, but I was just enamored by this idea of this martial art that you can do without. I didn't want to hit people. I did a bit of capoeira at the time for a few years, and that was really fun. But I didn't want to hit people, and look at my head. I can't afford to be hit anymore. I already look ugly enough as is. So I was looking for something different. And I really think that wrestling it's something that's really important for young men. We see so many, as I said, I'm a high school PE teacher, and I see so many boys who, once they quit footy, they don't have an outlet. They don't have a physical outlet. And I really do think that's something that's missing for a lot of people in our society these days, a way to take out your aggression in a physical sense. And you go to the academy, and you're not bashing your mates, but you can put that physical energy into something constructive. Yeah. So when I moved up the Central Coast, I knew that Luke was on the coast, and I'd sort of been putting it off for whatever reason. I saw that he got his black belt in December 2005. I'm like, well, I've really got no reason not to now. So the following, I waited till after Christmas, got that out of the way, and then in January I went down there and started training with him down at a little gymnastics place down at Wyoming, and never looked back from there. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Wow, fantastic.
What's the one of the things which I think, again, son basketball now, right? So I've seen him transition from jiu-jitsu to basketball. He gets to play every weekend. He gets to compete, throw down, deal with his nerves, deal with all of these things every weekend. And I feel sorry for jiu-jitsu contestants, really, because myself included, because we don't get to compete every weekend. But then I'm thinking to myself, well, there's also, that's in Melbourne. What is the scene like as far as competition in the Central Coast? Because you're kind of in the middle between, where did you say, between Newcastle and Sydney, right?
Yeah, right in between Newcastle and Sydney. So there's really only sort of one competition a year on the Central Coast. However, because we are only an hour from Sydney, and a lot of people who live on the coast commute. So as you know, Sydney's a pretty expensive place to live.
Yeah.
The idea of driving an hour down the freeway for a competition, that's sort of nothing to worry about. So we've got guys competing in grappling industries this weekend. We've got 9 or 10 crew heading down there. It's just an hour down the freeway. So it's amazing though to see the development of tournaments. I remember my very first tournament that I went to. I'd been training for about 4 or 5 months, and the whole tournament stopped. And I've said blue for years, but I think it was actually a purple belt match. It was one purple belt match, and I mean, the stadium stopped.
Wow.
All the other matches stopped. There were like, it was huge. There were 4 mats, right? But at the time it was massive, and all 4 mats stopped. The MC grabbed the microphone, introduced these 2 purple belts.
The purple belts.
Yeah, exactly. They got the entire 4 mats, and they did their thing, and we all sat there watching them hushed as though they were gods, right? And then I flicked back a few years ago to one of the first grappling industries that I did. And I'm like, as a black belt, and I'm thinking, all right, there's going to be some pressure. People are going to be a heap of people watching this, that, and the other. And no, with the 9 mats that were going on, there were more people watching the 4-year-olds hold arms and dance around, spin in circles, than there were watching 2 of us. So you realise just how much it's much has changed in that regard. But yeah, no, the scene's really good. Like there's you've got your federation comps every month. Someone's got a federation comp on somewhere. And then with grappling industries and the guys at Jiu Jitsu, who also put on the Subversion show I was on recently, there's options for everyone. There's ADCC rule sets. It's really cool to see just how much is available now compared to, I mean, those first tournaments, when I'm talking about that tournament, that was a no-gi only tournament. They ran 4 tournaments a year. I think 3 were in the gi and 1 was a no-gi tournament. Whereas now it's kids, adults, gi, no-gi, you name it. Yeah.
Awesome. Brilliant.
And Grant, tell us about that Subversion that you were on. How was that for you?
Oh, it was so much fun. So I keep saying I'm this, I'm that. I'm a PE teacher. And in one of my other lives, I emceed fight shows. And I used to do some MC work down in Tasmania.
Yeah.
And
That's the word no.
You must know a million little phrases. Like, fight show commentators always have that moment, like how they summarize like something a fighter's doing. It's like, that punch was tighter than a da-da-da, or whatever. They always have these little one-liners.
I tried not to get too Michael Chavello on anyone, but it did come out. But yeah, so where this comes back to Subversion, when George was putting the first Subversion together, he kind of put the call out for MCs, and someone tagged me in on the post, and I messaged him. And I said, yeah, I'll do it. So I went there for the first one and MC'd it, and I was absolutely blown away by the level of competition and the level of production. I'm not sure if you guys had the chance to watch any of them, but the production value on the Subversion cards it's amazing. I remember watching Boa 8 years ago when they did their first one, and that was incredible. And to have something like that in our own backyard was really cool. So the first one I emceed and I enjoyed it. I had a real good time. But really, I say to my kids at school, the only time I ever want to put a suit on is at a wedding or a funeral. Now, I'll put them on at a fight show as well, but I'm way more comfortable in McGee. So when the call went out for the latest Subversion, I messaged straight away. I'm like, look, I'd love a match. I really want the opportunity because I'm a big believer as the head of an academy. I'm not interested in competing in the sense of going down and doing tournaments every month, having 4 or 5 matches. I'm 43. There's plenty of people who are 43 who will do that, but I train 7 days a week, and there's a big focus for me on my students. There really is. First and foremost, I'm a teacher. But being a PE teacher and a lifelong athlete, be it jiu-jitsu, be it water polo, be it capoeira, be it whatever, I still can't put that competitive sort of flame to bed. So every now and then the opportunity arises, and having the chance to compete on Subversion against, similar experience, similar weight, similar size, it was fantastic. And I forgot just how much I enjoy competing. The build-up was so good for me. It improved my jiu-jitsu, it improved my lifestyle 100%. And it had that effect on a lot of the guys and girls at our academy too, because I'm a big believer. I've got a phrase tattooed on me: high tide raises all ships.
Love that.
In fact, when we're in the early days, we were thinking about calling our academy High Tide Jiu-Jitsu, being on the coast and all that sort of thing. And I noticed that when I got out there to compete, then all of a sudden in the next competition we had 15, 13, 15 people.
It's leadership in action. Yeah.
And far from perfect. Like I wouldn't get up there and say, hey, I'm the best leader. I make mistakes every day.
Yeah.
Every day, every class. I tell my kids at school that. I tell my guys at Jiu-Jitsu that. But I try my best, and I've always valued leadership from the front. I think that we set an example, and by setting that example, that going out there to compete, whether you win or you lose, I happen to lose a razor tight decision on this one. But the example that sets for the the students at the academy, and more so the example that it sets for my kids, is the reason that I did compete and why I loved it and why I want to do it again as soon as I possibly can. Yeah.
That's brilliant. What about you, Rachel? Do you like, I noticed that you teach, like I just did a quick scroll on Grant's Facebook and saw the stuff that kind of he posts about you or whatever else, right? So anyway, I saw that you teach, and I don't know if you compete or not, but like, how do those things advance your art, and what are your views?
Look, I've competed twice
Okay.
when I was a blue belt, when I was a fresh blue belt, and I got bronze, I think. Actually, Jessie Jess, the UFC fighter, was in my division, but with just the way that she won gold that tournament and I got bronze, and I really wanted to go against her, but the way it all worked out, I didn't get to. And then a couple of years later, when I was like a 4-stripe blue belt, I competed again and got gold in that one. But I don't love it. It's not what, like all the nerves and all the preparation and like it. Yeah, I don't love it. I love coaching and I love teaching the students, and I, run a really good women's program. But more than that, like, just it doesn't have to be women. I also coach the kids as well, and
You're a day crew.
a day crew that I teach the day classes. So they're mostly guys. A couple of girls come into that one as well, but
a lot of middle-aged guys as well, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, and some younger guys as well. But
One of the things, like looking through my lens, one of the things that concerned me when Rachel started doing her daytime classes was you get people and they want, and this is no disrespect at all to Rachel, and you'll understand what I mean when I get there. They want the authority out the front of the room. It's funny with jiu-jitsu, unlike so many other sports, everyone still expects that the coach can get in there and kick your butt. No one goes into a boxing gym and expects that the coach is gonna knock you out. No one goes to a basketball team and expects that the coach is going to be dunking all over them. But you've still got this perception in jiu-jitsu that the coach has to be an absolute weapon on the mat. Now, Rach is a weapon, but she's tiny. And to have a whole bunch of largely middle-aged men roll in for the jiu-jitsu, and I'm talking 6 foot, 100-kilo dudes.
Yeah.
The way that they rally around Rach and the community that she's built with that crew is just, it's unreal to see. I like when I'm on school holidays, I go down just to see it and to just bask in the awesomeness that is our little day crew.
That's
so
brilliant.
cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Great to hear.
It was funny the other day. I was teaching and Grant piped up in the day class and he went to say something and I was like, Grant, and one of my students, white belt, he goes, yeah, you tell him, Rach. Tell the head coach to shush.
They're loyal. They're loyal.
And so just on that, Rachel, is there anything specific that you do that sort of gets that authority, or is it just by being authentic? You think that it comes by osmosis, or how does it work?
Look, I think what the students love about my jiu-jitsu is that it's a little bit sneaky and tricky, and I'll share all of my little sneaky tricks and tips.
I love it.
All the little sneaky setups. I would say jiu-jitsu is not the armbar or the choke or the kimura. Jiu-jitsu is actually everything that happens in between of that, and I share a lot of that kind of stuff, and I think they kind of dig that. So,
That's
but
awesome.
no, I'm just me. They love me or not, but that's it. We are who we are.
I reckon you're right on that. Like, such a big part. I'm 6'2", I'm 100 kilos, I've got a shaved head. I promise I'm not actually going bald.
I am, so easy target, easy.
Low hanging fruit,
If you had more stripes on your black belt, I'd be scared of you. No.
But that's it. That big black belt, you walk into the academy, anyone that comes on the first day, they expect that guy's going to be able to whoop them, right? But then when you say, go and roll with that girl over there, that little mum over there, that little blonde girl, and Rach just dances rings around them.
Yeah.
That's when they really, like, we've been there. You see so many guys who come in and they can write it off. Oh, he just beat me because he's stronger. Oh, he just beat me because he's bigger. Oh, whatever. There's no possible excuses here, right? Everything is so technical that if you don't walk away from your first roll with Rach believing in jiu-jitsu, you're never going to believe in it. That's okay. It's not for everyone.
The beauty of that too is that it quickly creates the culture in our academy. So we've had guys that have rolled with me on their first night and have just walked away.
Never come back.
Never come back.
Yeah.
And we don't need those guys. That we are a family club. We've got a lot of women on the mat. We need guys who are respectful and,
Yeah.
you know, roll with women without issues and all of that sort of stuff. So the ones that stay, because they're like, oh, wow, that was really cool. Like, can you show me more? They're the sort of students that we want at our academy.
Side note on that, Jihad, the guy who owns G-Force, he's like a big like Lebanese guy, right? He's scary as hell. He had the same principles, like come into my gym, I'll roll you. If I beat you, you should want to train here. And people were throwing up in the toilets. They didn't want to come back. So he's very blatantly not a family gym, although he's kind of gone down that path nowadays. My point is, if you kick someone's ass, no matter whether you're tiny or massive and scary, if you kick someone's ass when they come into the gym, they generally don't come back. I'm learning.
You get the two types, right? You get the ones who are like, oh, you kick my ass, I'm going somewhere else. Or you get the ones who, oh, you kick my ass, I want to learn how to do that exactly the same.
True. That's true.
It's
We do it nicely, though. I think I'm a firm believer that resilience can be learned, and so we don't have in our academy, you know, it's not a survival of the fittest. There are other academies around the area that do have a bit more of that mentality, or so I've heard. We stay in our lane very much, but we do really look after you on your first night. And when I say, like, you know, I'll beat them, I'll get them in I have a very specific way of rolling with new people. I'll make them tired by just keeping my distance and feeding the hips and making them struggle to pass my guard. And then when they're puffing and panting, I'll open my guard, get them in my closed guard, and cross collar choke them. And it's like that is exactly how every single roll goes.
It's like and I do in the corner pocket. It's just like that every time.
Oh, and you look over, you'll see the new guy, and Rachel's got one hand in their collar, and you just go, you fucking
He's in trouble.
So, like, some of my day students, they're like, oh, she looks sweet and innocent, but don't trust her. Like, she'll choke you out. And I always do it with a smile on my face and then laugh and say, you're okay. Come on, let's try again. And you just do it that way. But we really do. I think well, I hope we do bring our white belts up really strongly. And
awesome.
It's not a survival of the fittest. I've seen some people that have come in that would go, oh, wow, we've got our work cut out with us for this, you know, particular person. And as long as they keep coming, we've got, you know, a couple that we were talking about the other day, they just become so awesome at jiu-jitsu and better people and more confident. And suddenly they're walking in with their head held high and their chest puffed out. And
wow. Transformation. I love it. I love it. That's awesome.
Fantastic. Well, we're nearly out of time, guys. Thank you so much. It took us several months to coordinate this timing. You're very, very busy people. So thank you so much for being so patient with us. No, anytime. It's been well worth it. And just, have you got any final words, any parting thoughts?
Look, I just on something that Ray said, and something popped up earlier today, actually, in one of the many Facebook groups about, someone was asking about the best jiu-jitsu academy somewhere. And we get people advertise all around, we're the best. And there can't be a best. There's not, because what does the best mean? Is it the best competitive? I'm speaking Brazilian now. Is it the best competition academy? If it is, that's probably not going to be great for that lady who's coming in because she's got trauma. If it's the best supportive gym for that lady who's coming in with trauma, that's probably not the best environment for your 20-something competitive guys. Or if it's really great for those guys, it's probably not the best for kids. So there's no one best jiu-jitsu academy. I think we set a culture that we believe is best for us and that we want to thrive within our community. And it's very much about helping people. And because of that, a lot of people stay. Because of that, some people don't. But all of that's okay, because there's not, as I said, there's not going to be one place that's perfect for everyone. And we don't profess to be perfect for everyone. We just want to keep our standards high and do what we do. And the people who come along for the journey, that's what we want.
Love you guys. That's awesome. Thanks so
Fantastic.
much.
Well, thank you for letting us be a little part of your journey. We'll have this out probably in a couple of weeks, a week after next, I think. So if you could share it with your audience, that would be fantastic. Help us grow ours. And look forward to seeing you. And hey, Rach, get back on that competition scene, and we need some more female black belts.
Need
Come
sneaky
on.
jiu-jitsu.
Come and-
Need sneaky.
Come and train. Come and
So true.
compete. I would love to see you. I'll block that cross collar
When I
choke
get that
anytime. All good.
Awesome,
All right.
guys.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
guys.
so much, guys. That was awesome.
It really
Awesome.
was. Stay
Cheers.
awesome. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.